Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to break down the historic 2026 Assam-Nagaland oil agreement and the massive environmental and political stakes surrounding it. We're looking at a deal that could unlock just a staggering amount of hydrocarbon wealth, but it sits right at this really fragile intersection of our growing energy demands, deeply rooted constitutional rights, and ecological safety.
Here's a quick look at our agenda for today. First up, Section 1, the new oil pact. Then, Section 2, energy security and economics, followed by Section 3, the Indigenous opposition. Then, Section 4, the Baghjan warning. And finally, Section 5, charting the future. Let's get right into it.
So, we really have to ask ourselves, can the promise of shared oil wealth finally resolve a 434-kilometer boundary dispute? We're talking about a zone of jurisdictional friction that has quite literally stalled development since the mid-1990s. Is crude oil going to be the ultimate diplomatic lubricant here, or is it just going to ignite old tensions?
Section 1, the new oil pact. Now, the sheer scale of this agreement is just massive. We're talking about unlocking over 1,000 square kilometers of disputed territory under a strict 50-50 revenue split. Signed on June 11, 2026, by the Union government alongside the chief ministers of Assam and Nagaland, this tripartite deal deliberately separates resource development from those thorny boundary disputes that honestly forced exploration to a grinding halt way back in the 90s.
Moving on to Section 2, energy security and economics.
To understand why this is happening right now, you've got to look at this staggering number. India currently relies on imports for 88% of its crude oil. 88%. That makes domestic exploration an absolutely urgent national priority. And when you factor in geopolitical tensions that are disrupting global trade routes, boosting domestic production in the Assam-Arakan Basin isn't just about regional revenue. It's a truly critical component of national energy self-reliance.
And the potential economic windfall here? It's huge. This deal could actually multiply extraction capacity tenfold. To put that into perspective, just one field alone holds an estimated 15,000 crore rupees in hydrocarbons. When you realize the Naga belt contains hundreds of millions of metric tons of oil equivalent, well, it becomes crystal clear why policymakers are so eager to get those drills turning again after a 30-year pause.
Section 3, the Indigenous opposition.
But it's not all smooth sailing. Local groups argue this MOU bypasses the village councils and the customary landowners who are protected under a really vital constitutional shield. You see, Article 371A is the bedrock of Nagaland's integration into the Indian Union. It ensures that Nagaland is held communally by village councils and clans, not just the state government. So the big apprehension here is that an executive, state-to-state revenue-sharing deal basically sidesteps the very people who hold the customary title to the land.
Because of that, the pushback is fierce. Impartially speaking, it's crucial to note that 7 Naga groups are outright opposing any extraction by national companies until a broader political settlement is finalized. The Naga national political groups have made it absolutely clear exploring natural resources before a formal agreement goes against their 2017 principles. They view this state-to-state revenue deal as a blatant bypass of the true local stakeholders.
So what's the alternative? Well, civil society is demanding a shift away from a basic state revenue split, which, risks just enriching contractors in the short term, toward a Norway-style sovereign wealth fund. The argument is that without a transparent, audible fund that directly targets indigenous land development, all this wealth could easily just evaporate into short-term state budgets rather than multiplying for future generations.
Which brings us to Section 4, the Baghjan warning.
To really understand these local fears, we have to look back at the 2020 Baghjan disaster in neighboring Assam. A blowout in May of that year led to a devastating fire in June, and it raged for 173 agonizing days. Think about that. It literally took flying in international experts and specialized snubbing equipment from Canada just to cap the leak half a year later.
The human and ecological toll was just devastating. It displaced thousands of families and dumped toxic condensate right into the globally recognized Dibru-Saikhowa National Park. We're talking about a region that is part of the Indo-Burma biodiversity hotspot. The gas leak blanketed local agriculture, decimated fish populations, and caused irreversible damage to a fragile ecosystem that local populations completely rely on for their everyday livelihoods. And here's the kicker. Investigations later confirmed that the company was actually operating without proper environmental clearances, which really validates the fears of indigenous groups facing this new deal. The National Green Tribunal's expert committee found repeated violations of environmental laws and internal safety procedures. So, when Indigenous communities in Nagaland look across the border at that 2020 disaster, you can see exactly why their resistance to swift, unchecked exploration makes complete sense.
Finally, Section 5, Charting the Future. So, how do we move forward? Experts note that implementing FPIC, that's free, prior, and informed consent, is the vital missing piece that could prevent a repeat of those halted 1990s Changpong oil operations. FPIC isn't just some bureaucratic checkbox, it's a meaningful engagement process. It ensures the affected village councils are given full data on environmental impacts and revenue arrangements before any irreversible corporate investments are ever made.
Analysts suggest 3 critical steps must happen right now to build a sustainable roadmap. First, honoring Article 371A with a formal assembly review. Second, creating that transparent, sovereign wealth fund we talked about. And third, securing free, prior, and informed consent. The window to establish these protections is open right now, but it's going to slam shut the absolute moment these exploration blocks are auctioned off. I'll leave you with this final thought as we wrap up our explainer today. As the drills prepare to turn, we're left with a critical question. Will this massive resource divide the region further, or will it be the true foundation of a peaceful, prosperous future? The June 2026 pact is undeniably historic, but whether it becomes a blessing or a curse, well, that depends entirely on the actions taken in these next few crucial months. Thanks for joining me.